All right, so I have the drawing finished. The next thing that I'm going to do is go ahead and erase my guidelines that I don't need anymore. So all of these, these crosshairs that I made, anything that was just for guidance, I do not need that anymore because I'm going to be shading next. Okay. All right, and once you've done that, the next thing is going to be to start adding value to this, and it's kind of up to you where you want to start. I'm going to kind of start with my middle values and then work darker and lighter from there. Okay, so I'm going to start with my regular HB pencil. I think it's generally a nice place to start, and I want to really notice. My goal is that, like, I have these black objects, I have white objects. Obviously, a white object still has some dark shadows on it, but overall, the black one is going to be a lot darker. Okay, so I want to start to notice those comparisons. But I'll start with the. I'm going to use the side of the pencil. I'm going to start with this cone here. And you have had some experience already working on shading some of these forms. Of course, your still lifes at home might be, your personal still life is probably more complicated than this, but you can kind of start it like this and then always get more detailed afterwards. But I'm noticing this whole side of it is generally darker than the other side. See a little error in my drawing here that comes down to here. I'm switching directions with it to smooth out my shading. And I am noticing that the black chess piece is casting quite a dark shadow on this that I will address next. Right now, it's kind of a layering, a building up process. I'm lightening the pressure to kind of help transition into this bright white over here where there's a highlight. And I'm actually also eventually going to get rid of this line. I don't need an outline on my object. The dark background is going to help define that edge. Right. I'm going to go ahead and get this shadow in here. And I'm going to compare that. So if you notice, this is much darker than this part of the shadow. It's pretty similar to this part of the shadow. Okay, so always comparing. That's what's going to make your drawing look really realistic, is getting those relationships accurately. So I'm going to build that up a little bit, make it darker. Surprisingly dark considering it's a white object. Sometimes it is surprising, so we have to really look. You can also compare it to your value scale if you want. It's another way to get your value accurate. Just building that up. All right, I'll go back in to this because I noticed this part of the shadow is quite a bit darker. I'm probably going to even need my darker pencil for it, but I'll start by building it up with this pencil. It sort of softens at the edges. It's very dark right where it's hitting. Putting more pressure or switching to the dark pencil, so it's an option. This is a little darker up here. I'm going to go ahead and just keep moving on. I'm switching to my black object. I'm going to go right ahead and go for my darker pencil with that. But it's not pure black. It's got some really nice highlights in here that I'm going to go ahead and lightly map out. So I'm just kind of lightly marking off where they're going to be. It's going to make it easier so I don't have, it would be hard to erase something that is that bright white on something so dark. And this whole area over here is slightly lighter. It's still quite dark, but I'll shade that in the pencil, but not putting full pressure. Let's see, one more little highlight here. slightly lighter here. Then most of it is going to be really, really quite dark. So I can put more pressure. So you're going to continue like this, just looking for the darks and the lights, and you'll ultimately fill in your whole space with the exception of areas that are white. Everything will be filled in. You'll find, especially when you get into the background, getting the background, it's going to make everything pop out more. So sometimes we think you're done before you get the background, but when you have the relationship of the objects to the background, that's really what's going to make it come together. So keep working that. You know, we'll sort of soften the edges near those highlights. This will take some work. Okay, so continuing like that. Don't forget about your shadows. Keeping in mind, generally, if you look, generally the shadows are going to be darkest right near the base of the object. But you should always look. Key is to look, not draw things that you think you know about things. You actually looking, and that's what's going to make everything look realistic. So that we've got very dark. All right, you will see a photo of this when it is complete, but I think that's enough information for you to get started with your shading.